mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang mag-ibig, telas ng sinakanan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyang ka ng magiting, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa nagatang tutok sa simoy at sa langit kong pagaw, ay hinatang tulad, awit sa pagkayang minamahal. Ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na nag-iibig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magtitingin. Luman ang araw ng walhaging pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling ko. Ang inigaya na pagkay mga amin, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Panatang makabayan, iniibig ko ang Pilipinas. Aking lupang sinilangan, tahanan ng aking lahi. Kinukupkup ako at tinutulungang maging malakas, masipag at marangal. Dahil mahal ko ang Pilipinas, diringgin ko ang payo ng aking magulang. Susundin ko ang tuntunin ng paaralan. Tutuparin ko ang tungkulin ng mamamayang makabayan. Naglilingkod, nag-aaral at nagdarasal ng buong katapatan. Iaalay ko ang aking buhay, pangarap, pagsisikap sa bansang Pilipinas.
Init at sanina, karaming mga tao. Ang dating luming bukid ngayon sementeryo. Toto'y kumilos ka, balik na rin ang taksulok. Tulad ng dukha na ilagay mo, doktor. Hindi pula't dilaw, tunay na magkalaban. Ang kulay at tatak ay di siyang dahilan. Hanggat marami ang lugmok sa kahirapan, at ang hustisya ay para lang sa mayaman. Habang may tagsulok at sila ang nasaktok, di matatapos itong gulo.
Yeah, welcome back. It's a wonderful day sa lahat po ng mga OFW. And this is the first time na gagamitin ko yung application na ito, so bear with me. I hope hindi siya magloko. So, kamusta po kayong lahat? Okay, today, actually hindi ito yung pinaka topic ko for today. Kasi I have 5 topics to be discussed today. But unfortunately, fortunate, okay, ayoko sabihing unfortunate, but fortunate ay meron isang balita sa Pilipinas na gusto kong i-share sa inyong lahat. So ano nga ba yon? Ito yung usap-usapan ng ating pamahalaan, gobyerno, DOLE at mga medical experts sa Pilipinas tungkol po sa pagpapababa ng kwarantina sa Pilipinas. So I don't want to make mistakes on these sensitive issues kasi alam ko for the fact most of you na nanonood ngayon sa akin ay mga umuuwing Pilipino at uwing-uwi na yung iba sa inyo. And for that, I quote, ayokong magkaroon ng pagkakamali sa mga balita na gusto kong ilabas sa inyo dahil ito'y hindi ko napaghandaan actually. Inaamin ko hindi ko siya napaghandaan, hindi ko siya naaral. Okay, hindi ko siya naaral. I think twice ko lang siyang napakinggan, paulit-ulit kong pinakinggan yung mga bawat detalye na gustong ipahiwatig ng balitang ito. And it summarized only that gusto nilang ibaba ito into 7 to 10 days ng quarantina sa inyo mga OFW. So sounds good for many of us, sounds good. And sounds not good sa atin hong mga gobyerno. Okay? And eventually you will realize bakit hindi ito maganda. bakit hindi ito maganda sa ibang taga-gobyerno. Okay? So, ayokong patagalin ang usapan na ito dahil napakahaba po. Okay? Panoorin natin. Okay. Yan, panoorin natin. Sorry. Nagkamali ang pindot ko. First time kong gamitin ang application na ito. Well, thank you so much Switcher, Studio Switcher sa paggamit nito, no, for allowing me to use this yan. Ang tawag dito, application. So, huwag na natin patagalin pa. Ito pong balitang ito. And we will just watch together and allow me really to share it with you as much as we can para mas maintindihan po ng maraming tao.
Correct. And nobody here was totally wrong insofar as public good is concerned. So I would rather that you repeat what you have complained. It was really complained. And you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, and with due respect to our medical experts, especially the technical working group of the interagency task force, I came up with a report, Mr. President, about the heavy burden that the new protocol has on our resources. Ang sinasabi ko nga, Mr. President, from the record of the IATF and TFTGROF, one-stop shop, yung COVID-19 testing positivity rate of returning overseas Filipinos for 2020 is only 2.07%. Ngayon, under 2021, Mr. President, the current quarantine protocol of 7 to 9 days stay of OFWs in hotel quarantine facilities, the COVID-19 testing positivity rate is only 1.5%. Kaya nga po kami nakikiusap sana, Mr. President, na kung mari, we go back to the original protocol noon, na pagdating nung ating mga OFWs, swab agad sila. Then, they are quarantined for 5 days while waiting for the result of the PCR test. Eh kapag negative sila, then they can be transported to their final destination. Kasi, Mr. President, aside from the economic consideration, these OFWs have long missed their homes. Ang tagal nila abroad kumikita, naghihirap para lamang kumita para sa pamilya nila. Ngayon, inuwi natin sila. And they have to stay for almost 14 days in quarantine. Notwithstanding the fact na after 5 days, they have been found to be negative. Bakit hindi natin sila pauwiin, Mr. President? And going back to my figures na 2.7% lang naman ang nagpapakita na yung ating mga overseas Filipinos nagpo-pass positive sila. Kaya yun po ang pakiusap namin. August, I will still yield to the decision of the IATF, Mr. President. Kaya lang gusto ko pong iparating yung kalagayan ng ating mga OFW. Talagang hirap na hirap sila, Mr. President. They are crying. Itong cellphone ko, Mr. President, no less than 300 to 500 text messages I receive from them every day. Kailan kami uwi? Ang tagal naman ng resulta ng PCR. Ganun, Mr. President. And we cannot close our eyes to the miseries of our OFWs. Kaya yun, pakiusap lang naman, Mr. President. Kung pwede naman, pwede lang. Kung hindi naman, then we still submit to the decision of the IATF, Mr. President.
Okay. Is that all? Yun na yun, Bot? Yun naman talaga ang sinabi mo noon. It's just the same. So, I'd like to call before our government members of the panel, I'd like to call Dr. Edsel Maurice Sarpania. Sir, can you enlighten us on this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon to all the members of the IATF and the resource persons. I completely understand and commiserate with Secretary Bello that this is really something that is a difficult situation, especially quarantine. Ako po last year, na-quarantine rin po ako, and it was really the longest few days of my life na separated from the family. So I understand the personal impact of this po. However, we know po that COVID, especially the variants of concern, have come into the country through the different through returning travelers po. And this is why it is really essential that we have some sort of control to prevent the entry of these variants of concern. Do I have my slides? Can I ask the Secretariat to share my slides? While we are waiting, Mr. President, I think that everybody naman is cognizant of the fact that the quarantine has already, it really has an impact. But what our proposed solution po is actually there is data that we can shorten quarantine from 14 days to 10 days, provided that the person remains asymptomatic during that whole time. The second point that we will make po once I have my slides is also that the testing kasi, ang timing po ng testing is really the problem. If somebody gets infected in transit on the plane, pag tinest nyo po siya pagdating, hindi pa po magpa-positive yan. It usually takes 3 to 5 days for the person to turn positive on PCR. And so that's why po yung ginawa natin is we test on the 5th day. But based on the Department of Health data, in fact, even after the 5th day, there are still about 40% of people who still test positive on the 7th day po of arrival. So our proposed solution po kasi is that the testing, even on the 5th day, will still not pick up everyone. So it is either we test on the 7th day or we completely do away with the testing, but make sure that we quarantine everybody until the 10th day po. And this can be done in facility, but again, it is very expensive, or we can do this at home as long as the LGUs can supervise strict every day. Parang po yung sa Singapore na alam po nila kung lumalabas yung tao o hindi, para sigurado po na hindi sila maka-spread ng COVID, because that is really our biggest concern, is that if somebody comes in with a variant of concern and transmits it to the community, which has already happened in Pasay, magkakalat po talaga and magsa-search po tayo ulit. Test on arrival po, tapos if negative, complete 14 days isolation at home or at the LGU. And then, noong December 2020 po, when we met with you po sa Malacanang because of the variant, ang ginawa po natin, 14 days facility-based quarantine. And we tested on the 5th day. And then, earlier this year, in February, we shifted to the 5-day facility quarantine with testing on the 6th day. And kung negative, release po. With the stipulation that the LGU continue to make sure that they quarantine to complete 14 days po. Next slide, please. So, ito po yung advantage nung dati, before December, mabilis po siya kasi testing on arrival, and of course, it's less costly. The disadvantage is that because kung nahawa ka ng virus in the plane, hindi pa magpa-positive yung test mo, and if we release you, then ikakalat mo po yung virus in your LGU if they are not very good at ensuring na na-quarantine po kayo ng 14 days. So, nasa handoff po ito from the airport to the LGU na nagkakaroon ng problema. Next slide, please. And then yung from December 2020 to February 2021, ito po actually was ideal because we really kept people in facility for 14 days. And halos nakita nyo naman po, wala tayo naging holiday surge. We were able to control the variants up to February. So your, yung inutos nyo po ito na 2 weeks na facility-based quarantine, this was the most efficient way of controlling the entry. The problem is po, it's very expensive and was not sustainable, and that is why we changed it in February. Next slide, please. And when we changed it in February, the stipulation was 5 days and then test. and then the LGU should strictly monitor the completion of quarantine. And the advantage of this was less expensive, and the testing on the 5th day is better than testing on arrival. Kasi again, if you test on arrival, baka nagtatago pa yung virus, hindi pa po siya magpa-positive. So the disadvantage, as Sec. Bello has already said, this is still very expensive. And now that we have seen that even up to the 7th day, pwede pa sila mag-test positive sa 7th day rather than the 5th day. So may nami-miss pa rin po. And of course, we did have some lapses, kaya po kasama rin po dun sa ating search ngayon, nakita po natin kumalat ng konti yung variants of concern. Next slide, please. And so, yung just some definitions po, when we talk about true and false positives, yung pag nag-positive po sa PCR, almost always tunay po yan. The only question is whether nakakahawa siya or naka-recover na siya. And then, we can distinguish this naman as long as we look at the history of the traveler. Kung nagkaroon na siya ng symptoms, most likely, nawawala na yon. Pero kung nagsisimula pa lang yung symptoms niya, that is a real positive. We can distinguish that po. So, true false positive is very rare. So, hindi po namin iniisip yun masyado. If somebody tests positive, the safest action po talaga is to isolate, especially kung may variants of concern tayo. Kasi nakita nyo naman kahit yung nangyari sa Benguet, isa lang yung makalusot, catastrophic po talaga. Next slide, please. This really just shows po yung rate of RT-PCR result. If you notice, wala pong 100% dyan. And that is why we say that testing is optional. Kasi even if you test someone who is symptomatic, there's still a possibility na magne-negative pa rin yung test. And so this is why it is, we say that testing is optional for as long as we can complete the 10 days quarantine. Kasi yun po yung mas sigurado to say na hindi nakakahawang isang tao rather than testing on the 1st day, on the 5th day, or on the 7th day. Next slide, please. This just shows the period na nagpa-positive po yung virus at kung kailan po siya nakakahawa. Next slide, please. So ito po yung proposed changes as we have already mentioned. We can shorten the duration of quarantine from 14 days if there are no symptoms to the end of 10 days. Basta walang symptoms, we can do it 10 days. Testing is optional unless somebody is symptomatic. If we are going to test someone who does not have symptoms, it should be done on the 7th day. Ideally pa rin, facility-based quarantine, but we recognize that this is very expensive. If for LGU home quarantine, as long as it can be assured, dapat daily po and strict compliance at home, and dapat set up po talaga yung house. And then any positive test will be reviewed, but the safest to assume it is still contagious and you need to complete isolation. Next slide, please. So there are two options that we are talking about. One is strict facility quarantine and selective testing. So we want everyone to get isolated for 10 days, but you can optional po yung 7th day testing. Kahit walang testing, pag nakumpleto yung 10 days and walang symptoms, we can release them po. Next slide, please. And then option 2, if tapos po talaga yung funds for facility-based quarantine, we can do strict LGU quarantine. If they are set up at home, we can do that. If not, sa TTMF kung pwede. And selective testing as mentioned on the 7th day po. Next slide. That's it po. Thank you very much.
Ang sunod have I called Dr. Ana Ong Lim?
Good evening po, Mr. President. The technical advisory group had some preliminary discussions po regarding the current issue, and we were thinking that based on the data that we have right now, it's a better option to review the testing protocol, make sure that it can be done at a later, rather recommend that it be done at a later time, but that the critical intervention should really be that quarantine should be strictly enforced, because whether or not testing is done, as long as quarantine can be imposed, then we continue to keep our borders safe. So yun pong nuances nun, when the test is best done, will actually be moot kung ma-i-impose po natin ng maayos yung quarantine from end to end. Sir, I mentioned po that the recommendation that the TAG worked on as it met prior to this briefing was actually to propose that it's more critical to focus on quarantine measures because this will ensure that any entry of variants from travelers can be better controlled. This is really coming from the fact that tests always have a false negative rate. And if we really want to secure our borders, then the only way to go is to implement quarantine strictly. Well, preferably for 14 days, but at the minimum, at least for 10 days po. And then yung testing can actually be something that we will forgo kung mai-implement po natin yung 10 araw at kung ano man po yung mga savings na ma-generate dahil hindi na po tayo magte-test, pwede naman po sigurong maipasok naman doon po sa ating quarantine program if you feel that that's something that will help po.
I would call next is to Dr. Marisa Alejandria, the member of the TAG for COVID-19.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Secretary Bell. Yes, I appreciate and understand the physical, mental, and emotional burden, plus the financial burden, economic burden brought about by our quarantine policy. However, we recognize also that quarantine is really one way to prevent the spread of the virus, and considering that this virus has a pre-symptomatic, yung may tinatawag tayong phase na kahit wala pang symptom, pwede na siyang makahawa. Kaya that is the basis for the 14 days. Yung incubation period is 5 to 14 days. So, median of 5 to 7 days. Ang pinaka-infectious period is yung first week, 5 to 7 days. And that was the basis of testing at the 5th day. But as mentioned by Dr. Salvania, and we looked for new data, so there is data from CDC, and they did modeling studies also that we can reduce the quarantine period to 10 days, from 14 days without testing, and the residual transmission risk is just about 1%, can go down to 0.1 to 10%. So yun yung parang compromise, or it's a good compromise in the sense that we reduce the duration of the period of quarantine with minimal effect on the number of infections that we may miss out. So just for, as long as they remain asymptomatic without symptoms, and they will complete the quarantine period in the LGU, at home, or at the quarantine facilities with strict implementation and monitoring po. So the TAG experts, we concur that we can relax the 14 days to 10 days without testing as long as they remain asymptomatic and monitoring is strictly implemented. At any period that the traveler or the overseas Filipino worker gets symptoms during that 10-day, then testing should be done. So the system should be in place to be able to isolate once they get symptoms and they get tested. And then that's the policy that we can adapt if we are to considering that taking into consideration the economic burden, the physical, emotional burden that the 14-day quarantine is imposing. Thank you po.
So, Doktora, may tanong ko lang ho sa inyo. So, the 10 days is the barest minimum para it cannot go pinaka ano na yan ho. Ay, okay.
10 days po without testing. May isang scenario, if we want to test at 7 days. Yung first week kasi talaga po yung pinaka-highest possibility that you will develop symptoms. So test at 7 days and then wait for the result. If negative, then pwede nang ma-release. So mababawasan siguro from 10 to, depende on how fast the turnaround time of the result is, go down to 8 days, 9 days, no? But with testing, if we want testing, but it has to be at the 7th day. That's the other scenario. Siguro, i-costing yon, no? How much is the cost of the test and the kung mabawasan yung 10 days ng 9 days, 8 days, no? If you have a negative result. So, the quarantine period should not go below 7 days. So, maglalaro lang po sa 7 to 10 days kung maglalagay tayo ng testing para mabawasan yung 10.
Bob, Secretary Bello, do you have any question?
No more, Mr. President. I think Secretary Galvez and Secretary Anyo already joined me.
Well, it is clear that really the medical guys would really go for the strictest measure. As a matter of fact, they are not, from what I sense, is that they are not ready to move an inch backward. To them, the paramount interest, we were discussing here about the expense of government. And you would notice that they never mention about money, except that they are really insisting to the strictest measures to protect our borders nga. So, let us, that would be a good discussion after this meeting. Do you still have anything to say, Dr. Ong?
Wala na po. Thank you po, Mr. President.
Salamat po, ha? Then,
pero Mr. President, I'll go back to the offer of Dr. Saldana and tumatawa si Dr. Alendria na they agreed to lower from 14 to 9. So I think we can settle for that until we come up with our position before the IATF, Mr. President.
Well, unless also there is something or more than just what I'm hearing now and previously, I must also be convinced that it is really medyo I'm quite not comfortable with the relaxation that it's being brought about, being bruited now. Ako medyo but so let us see.
President?
Maybe we'd be more educated if we hear Doktora Cynthia Palmes Saloma. Baka malinawan tayo. We can agree on or disagree. May I seem to side with the doctors because I am a frustrated doctor and that's understandable.
Hello po, Mr. President.
Ma'am.
Okay po. Gusto ko pong sang-ayunan yung sinasabi kanina ni Dr. Ana Onglin kung the test at the time of arrival. So kung mag-test tayo sa time of arrival, pwede rin po mag-false negative yon, di ba? Kung mag-test naman po tayo on the 5th day or on the 7th day, mas maganda yung chances na makatch natin. But at the very least po, Mr. President, we really have to enforce yung strict quarantine. No? It could be 10 days. The most ideal is 14 days. In other countries, they even do it for 21 days. So, yun po yung makikita natin. At sa pag-aaral po natin, Mr. President, based on genomic sequences, may isa lang na makalusot. May isa lang na makalusot. Manganak siya ng marami. If you see the genetic tree po ng virus, may isa lang makalusot, 5. Ang 5 manganak. At ito, yan po yung nakikita natin dito sa mga B117, itong UK variant, at saka ito yung mga South African variant. Kung titingnan po yung roots nila, 1, 2 lang makalusot, manganak na sila ng manganak. At alam din po natin na, syempre, nanggaling din po, kung titingnan natin sa tree, nanggaling din naman sila sa ating borders, no? So may mga weakness yung ating borders na gusto po natin pagpabutihin pa. Kaya po, kailangan talaga yung quarantine measures. Alam mo naman, President, kung iuwi natin sila sa mga bahay, alam mo naman tayo mga Pilipino, exuberant, ang hirap-hirap talaga mag-chat-chat talaga sa neighbor, mga kapatid, mga kaibigan. So, kailangan din po na kahit doon, pauwiin man sila sa bahay nila o LGU man sila, we really need to enforce po yung strict quarantine. Yan lang po talaga yung ating paglaban dito. Salamat po.
Ang masabi ko, ma'am, is actually kung yung protocol sa bahay, hindi nasusunod yan. In a scale of 1 to 10, you may have a compliance of only about 4. Hindi talaga nasusunod yan. So, thank you for your educating us more of the dangers of COVID-19. Wala na bang iba? Alam mo, this meeting was called because of the complaint of, not really the complaint, but the misgivings of Secretary Bello of the dwindling funds of the OFW na, which should only be spent for their care and needs. So yun ang at least naintindihan rin nyo kung bakit mga may there are officials in government which are taking the other view or the extreme measure or would want to paddle in the middle of the river. Maintindihan na ninyo ngayon at least kung bakit. So nakikita niya na maliit na yung pera. He's raising the alarm actually. He's raising the alarm of the possibility of having no more funds to take care of this kind of situation that we are in now. Kung wala na ho kayong tanong, I'd like to ask the guys here, the cabinet members, wala na ba kayong tanong? Senator Bong, ikaw mo yung sa health. You're the chairman of the health committee sa Senate. Kung wala ka nang maitanong, we would give our profuse thanks to the panel, to Dr. Salbanya, Alexandria, Ong Lim, and Palmes Saloma for you.
Okay, ako po, President, meron po akong tanong. Marami po kaming tanong, nasa comment section nga eh. Ayan oh, daming dismayado eh. Ha? Pati ako eh. Dismayado ako. Sabi, within 10 days, pag walang simptomas, pwede nang umuwi. Okay? For the sake of economy. Pag-usapang ekonomiya, pera, kaliwali yung swabbing. Diba? Sabi nila eh. Sabi ng mga experts panel ninyo, Mr. President, as far as I understand what you guys are talking about, okay? Okay lang naman daw na wala hong swabbing, basta 10 araw, wala kang simptomas. Wala kang simptomas. So, ibig sabihin, itong si kawawang OFW, mananatili pa rin sa hotel ng 10 araw. Kung pipiliin niyo, kasi may dalawang choice eh. May dalawang option ang gobyerno. Either mag-impose itong IATF on the 7th day, swab yan, Okay? Parang wala nagbago eh. Ha? Parang wala akong nagbago eh. Okay? Let's be frank, no? Walang nagbago eh. Ang magbabago lang dyan, itong pera eh. Yung pera, yung gastos sa swabbing eh. But that's not the point eh. Hindi yung punto namin, no? Mr. President. Okay, tatapatin ko na ho itong mga OFW na nanonood sa akin. Especially sa mga nasa Saudi Arabia. Pag ba kayo sumakay ng Philippine Airlines, Saudi Airlines, kayo ba ay may swab test? Wala. Wala. Masaya po ba yan? Tanungin ko kayo. Kayo po, mga OFW, pagka kayo umuwi sa Pilipinas, even if wala kayo sa Saudi Arabia, payag ba kayo na wala kayong swab test bago sumakay ng eroplano? Oh, sabi mo, oo, payag ka. Yung iba, ayaw. Okay? Ako ayoko. Bakit? Kasi hindi mo alam kung sino yung carrier eh. Diba? Hindi mo alam kung saan lupalop na pupunta yung katabi mo ngayon sa eroplano. Kung sinong nakasalamuha niya. Tama? Oh, I'll give you some example. Pero hindi ko na ipapakita yung swab test result ni Kabayan sa Saudi Arabia. He wants to go back to the Philippines. Pero napag-alaman niya dahil nagpa-swab test siya, infected siya. Okay, paano niya nalaman? Nalaman niya saan? Sa Shahati application dito sa Saudi Arabia, merong free swabbing. Unlimited pa nga yung swabbing kahit araw-arawin mo. Sundot dito, sundot doon eh. Lahat ng may butas pwedeng sundutin. Okay? Libre po yun sa Saudi Arabia. Akalain mo, positive siya. Infected siya ng COVID-19. Kulay brown. Yung kanya pong, color code dun sa Shahati application. Ito pa nakakatakot, sinabi niya. Pwede naman akong umuwi. Hindi naman nila alam eh. Wala naman pong swabbing sa Philippine Airline. Wala rin naman pong hinahanap na swab test sa Saudi Airlines. Nakuha mo yung punto ko? Nakuha niyo ho ba yung punto? So sabi ni matalinong OFW, ay, okay lang. I'm infected pero wala naman nakakaalam. Wala naman akong simptomas, malakas ako. Kasi sabi po ng mga expert panel ninyo, Mr. President, sabi nyo, okay, a person can be infected even if wala siyang simptomas. So itong si Kabayan, nakausap ko kagabi, alam po na yan ni Ma'am Amira Bartolome. No? Kausap ko si Ma'am Amira Bartolome ng Magic 6 Radio, kinausap ko po siya about this guy. No? Gusto niya umuwi sa Pilipinas. Sabi niya, wala naman swab test sa Philippine Airline eh. Diba? Ngayon, nag-iisip ka. Oh, kayo ho nanonood ng 1,300 na nanonood sa akin. Nag-iisip kayo ngayon. Oo nga no. Paano yun? Wala nakakaalam eh. Wala nakakaalam na ako ay infected. Pwede akong bumili ng ticket. Sasakay ako ng Philippine Airline o kaya ng Saudi Airlines. Hindi naman naghahanap ng swab test. Magdamay-damay na lang tayo. Gets nyo? Ngayon, gusto nyo mapaikli o mapababa yung infection rate dyan sa Pilipinas? Bakit hindi nyo lahatin? Lahat ng mga bansang pumapasok, mga tao galing ibang bansang pumapasok sa Pilipinas, lahat swab test muna dito. Swab test muna dito bago sumakay ng eroplano. In that case, kaming mga Pilipino ay sigurado ligtas. Imaginein mo, you are flying up in the sky for about 9 hours from here, Saudi Arabia, up to Philippines. 9 to 10 hours. Okay? Lumilipad kayo. And hindi mo alam kung sino yung katabi mo. Siya ba ay may infection? Nagets nyo? Nagets nyo? Ito pa, Mr. President, at sa lahat ng mga medical experts ninyo na kausap nyo kanina, ang galing ninyo, no? Sabi nyo, social distancing. Hoy, mawalang galang na ho. Yung Philippine Airlines, sardinas na sardinas. Di mo alam? Di nyo ho alam? Yung Philippine Airline ho, sardinas sila. Dikit-dikit, gustong makremate. Yung tipong 10 araw, lumilipad sa ere, walang swab test, dikit-dikit, kamusta naman kayo? Pagdating sa Pilipinas, after 5-6 days, Swab test si kawawang OFW and boom, panot. Positive siya ngayon. Now, anong gusto natin mangyari? Siyempre, OFW, they wanna go home. Diba? They wanna go home safe. But, I think, you have to study many things mga minamahal ko. This is not against the Filipino OFW or non-OFW. I'm not against on you. Na kung sinasabi ko man ito, because this is what I believe. No, this is what I believe is right. But again, hindi lahat ng tao mapiplease ko Hindi lahat ng tao may intindihan yung sinasabi ko. You may not understand me. Yes. And in case na siguro wala kayong perang pampaswab test, yung mga amo ninyo, ayaw ko yung bigyan ng pampaswab test, pamasahe nga ng ticket, hindi nga kayo mabilhan. Many reasons kaya ayaw nyo pumayag. For some people lang, no? But this is something that it will benefit. Kapag ginawa ng Pilipinas ito, ibaba nyo na yung swab test nyo dyan. Ibaba nyo na yung quarantine nyo dyan. Ibalik nyo na sa dati yan. At least 3 days swab test nyo, quarantine. Negative na yan Diba? Observation na lang pagdating sa Pilipinas. Gaya dito sa Saudi Arabia. Sa Saudi Arabia, ito, baka hindi alam ng iba nating kababayan. Well, I'm not comparing Philippines and Saudi Arabia, but I would like to share it with you. Lahat ng Pilipino, galing Pilipinas, pagdating sa Saudi, bago pa lang sumakay ng eroplano, may 72 hours na yan hawak na swab test. Pag lampas yan o expire yan o positive yan, hindi yan pasasakay ng eroplano. Agree ba kayo? Agree ka. Kasi naranasan mo. Pagdating dito, walang hotel. Walang hotel. Bahay lang. Sa bahay, 7 days kang maghihintay kung ayaw mong magpa-swab test. 7 araw tatapusin mo yon. Kung ikaw ay medical frontliner or healthcare workers in the 3 days, after 3 days, pwede kang magpa-swab test. And if you're negative, then you can get out of your house and dawar-dawar ka na. This is Saudi Arabia. Well, as you see, ang problema ng Saudi at ang problema ng Pilipinas, kahit ang China, India, Brazil, Amerika, ay COVID. But you see? Bakit yung ibang bansa nagagawa nila? Ay, wag mo ikumpara yung Pilipinas sa Saudi Arabia, ganito ganyan. Alam ko, I'm just sharing with you the idea. Tama po ba? Bakit ang Saudi Arabia, bakit ang Saudi Arabia, mag-o-open sila ng kanilang mga flight. Mag-o-open sila ng flight nila in the next couple of days, I think in May 17. Tama? May 17, kumpleto na. Ito, papakita ko sa inyo. Pero, sinabi ng Saudi Airlines that even if sila ay magre-resume ng kanilang flight in May 17, yung 20 bansa na travel ban ay mananatili ho. Yan status of 20 banned countries with resumption of international flight, ay mananatili ho. Yan diba? So, as you see mga kababayan, there are some precautionary measures that being applied in Saudi Arabia. Yes, there is. At kung inyo pong malalaman o nawawari, mga minamahal kong kababayan, ito, Pilipinas, ang Saudi Arabia ay isa ho sa mga nag-adapt ng IATA Travel Pass. Kung makikita nyo po dito, yan yung Saudi Airline, okay? Ito yung ang mga eroplano na nag-adapt ng IATA Travel Pass. Hindi lang yan, meron din ho dito. Ngayon, ito pa ang masakit. At baka hindi alam ng iba nating kababayan. Well, ang IATA Travel Pass is very good, no? This is damn very good. Kaya lang, alam niyo ho ba na flag carrier Philippine Airlines target to conduct a trial run of IATA Travel Pass from May to June. PAL will become the first local airline to trial run technology aimed at helping international passengers po. Okay, gamit po ang IATA. So ano nga ba ang IATA for your information lamang? O panoorin ninyo ito hong inihanda akong video dahil ako, ready ako sa mga ganyan.
COVID-19 is changing the way we travel. Health requirements like testing and vaccinations will have a greater impact on where and how we can fly. This is why we have developed IATA Travel Pass. a one-stop shop to securely and conveniently let you verify that you meet COVID-19 health requirements for your journey. The app is simple and easy to use. First, it enables you to create a secure digital version of your passport on your mobile phone, which will link your COVID test or proof of vaccination and travel information to your verified identity. You can then add your flight details. The app will automatically let you know what travel and health requirements are needed for your destination. This information is supplied by Thematic, the industry's most trusted source for global travel regulations. If you need a test, it will provide you with a list of verified health centers near your point of departure. There, your digital ID will be confirmed using your physical passport, which will allow the lab to securely send test results to your mobile device. Once governments issue digital vaccine certificates, you'll be able to upload yours to the app. If you meet the health requirements for your trip, you will receive an OK to travel notification. And with that, you're ready to fly. You can check in from home, sharing your status with the airline or border authorities before travel, or by showing it throughout your journey. All your data will be encrypted and saved on your phone, which means it will not be stored on a central database, and nobody but you can access it. The app's digital ID function will also pave the way for a future where travel is even more contactless. And IATA Travel Pass can act as your digital passport. It is a secure and user-friendly solution that travelers, airlines, and governments can trust, either on its own or incorporated by airlines into their own app. IATA Travel Pass gives you certainty in an uncertain world, so you can once again be reunited with family and friends, attend that important business meeting, or take a much-needed holiday and reconnect with the world and all it has to offer.
O napanood nyo, hindi lang yan. Nung isang araw pa, ang DOT o Department of Tourism ay nagsalita na sa paggamit ho ng IATA Travel Pass na yan. Kung makikita ninyo, April 19, 2021, Department of Tourism is aiming to use this travel pass ng IATA. At sinabi pa nila, requiring a COVID-19 digital pass can raise the level of confidence of travelers of favor of a country that is safe, seriously concerned on the health and of its residents and visitors. Almost all countries around the world require protocols, she added. So, ibig sabihin, kapag yan pinayagan, bakuna muna yata ito pagka bago umuwi. Pero, huwag kayong malito, okay? Huwag kayong malito dahil hindi pa naman yun na nangyayari at hindi pa naman yun na mangyayari for the time being. So, sa lahat po ng mga OFW, baka mamaya, you get me wrong na naman. Ay, sabi ni Kjuantv, bakuna na naman daw. So, wala pa naman po ganun. Ito yung napag-uusapan pa lang. At base sa artikulo, Philippine Airlines, they may adapt to use it sa buwan ng May or June. So for the time being, wala pa naman. So ayoko naman matapos ang video na to sa puro masama na lang na balita. Siyempre, meron tayong good news. Handa na ba kayo sa magandang balita? Handa na ba kayo? Hindi ko kayo marinig. Wala nga pala akong maririnig kasi wala nagsasalita maliban ako. Okay, so kung handa na kayong marinig ang magandang balita, taas ang kamay ng mga taga-Zamboanga. Taas ang kamay ng mga taga-Zamboanga. Yan, dami. Okay. At kung kayo ay taga-Zamboanga, mag-like kayo sa video na to. Ay! Wala ah. Wala. Ayaw nyo? Kung wala magla-like, hindi wag na tayo mag-usap ng magandang balita. Wala eh. Walang nagla-like. Ayan. So, siyempre may good news tayo dyan mga kababayan ko. Zamboanga City. The city of government will now no longer require a negative result of reverse transcription polymerase or RT-PCR test to a person which is fully vaccinated upon arrival. So, sa mga OFW dyan na taga Zamboanga at fully vaccinated na, you guys, no need to require a COVID-19 test upon arrival sa inyo pong lalawigan. Sinabi rin dito that however, Marive said that those fully vaccinated persons exhibiting symptoms of coronavirus disease will still require to undergo tests even if they show their certificate of vaccination. Four laboratories are currently offering a PCR test in Zamboanga. Yan, Zamboanga City, Philippine Red Cross, dyan po sa Zamboanga. At yung cost po ng PCR test is only 3,000 pesos. Okay? Dyan lang yan sa Zamboanga. So, hindi naman lahat pare-pareho po. Ano po? Okay. So, maganda yung balita na yon sa mga taga Zamboanga. Imaginein mo, may ganun pala sa Pilipinas. May lugar sa Pilipinas na, what can I say? Pag fully vaccinated ka na, they allow you not to have your PCR test. Well, that's good. Kapag nangyari yon, lahat ng mga Pilipino ay kailangan mabakunahan na para maiwasan ng RT-PCR test. Ngunit subalit bagamat pag kayo po ay mga nakikitaan ng mga simptomas ng COVID-19, therefore you have to undergo swab test. So hanggang dito muna lahat mga kababayan ko. So I want to see you next time sa atin hong YouTube video. Facebook Live, mamaya ho meron tayong Facebook Live after ng atin hong iftar. So I have to leave you for now because it's breakfast na sa mga Muslim. And I hope you guys have a fruitful day. No? Na you guys enjoy your day right now. And balikan namin kayo mamaya ho sa Facebook. No? Mamaya sa Facebook mag-usap-usap po tayo. Pakainin muna natin yung mga kababayan natin. It's 6:24 in the evening na sa Saudi Arabia. Magandang gabi at maraming salamat sa mga sumubaybay.